What is up, my friends, and welcome to another edition of the XFL Week in Review. I'm your host, Mark Perry, editor of XFL News Hub, your alt football media guru. This is episode 180. On this week's show, we have reporters from XFL News Hub. We got a roundtable. We will get to that momentarily. Plus, we got Mike Mitchell's fantasy rankings and so much more. So if you like football, and like and subscribe to the channel. Let's get this hits the like button. Let's get to 60 likes. Make sure you hit that notification bell to get alerted when we go live and when we post new content. All right, my friends, get your questions now. If you're in the chat, whether you're on the Facebooks or you're on the Twitter or you're on wherever, Facebook and YouTube, get your questions out. We'll go down the line. We'll get right to that here in just a second. Remember, if you want to be part of the show, it's really simple. Email podcast@XFL News Hub with your thoughts. Record an MP3 or video on your phone. We'll play it on next week's show. 888-430-7692, extension 3 is the number to dial. Also, let's see here. If you want to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, we appreciate that. We're on Stitcher, Spotify, Player, all news sorts. And I'll get to the whole name thing in a second. XFL Week in Review. Look us up on podcast everywhere. And plus, you can watch XFL Week in Review, maybe, live at 8 p.m. Eastern every Monday on the Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. We have the guys on the line right now. But however, timeline, February 18th, 2023, the XFL season begins. 5 days from kickoff. So shout out to all you OGs, the people that have stuck by from the beginning. Your time is now. So we have a lot to get to. Also want to remind you to hit Alt Football on Reddit. Subscribe there. We're looking for somebody to create a logo for us there. And News Hub Fantasy. We'll go over that later on the show. NewsHubFantasy.com. Leagues are forming now. You want to play XFL Fantasy Football? You can do that. 2,000, I just did the numbers. 2,921 users, 802 leagues as of right now. We still have a week to kick off. Also, I want to make a special announcement there, too, about I will be at Walters, most likely before the game, so stop by and say hello. So that's happening on Sunday. We'll be there Sunday night, so hang out at Walters before. I haven't heard anything of what's going on for before the game or what the leagues are planning on doing. We still have a week to go. Also, we are now switching to 2 days a week. So Monday, we'll have an episode that will be live. This way we can interact on there. Thursday, we're going to have another program that was going to deal with kind of the pre-show. Our writers at XFL News Hub are going to write the kind of the pre-game previews for their specific teams. And then we'll do previews. We'll do DFS, fantasy stuff, injuries, all that kind of stuff. Also, so that will be on Thursday. Also this week, we are going to do a live pre-kickoff show this Saturday as well at 1 p.m. Eastern live on the YouTubes to kind of bring it all together. So it's going to be a crazy week. It's been a crazy week. If you noticed, there was a post out there, and the XFL is planning on to do a podcast, and the podcast name that they're planning on doing, and they're calling it XFL Week in Review. So I appreciate the complimentary, the flattery. I forget what the expression was. So I'm still waiting to figure that out, but I've been already kind of contemplating changing the name because we're not weekly anymore. USFL Week in Review has been monthly thing. We brought back CFL Week in Review. That's been a monthly thing. The plan going forward, 2 days a week during the season, then we'll go monthly during the off season. And then as we build up to the season again, we go weekly again. So that's why XFL Week in Review kind of doesn't work, but something, I have a couple ideas. And so that name could change, but you don't have to do anything. You just have to tune in. All right, my friends, enough about me. Questions, I want them in the chat. Right now, we're going to go to, hopefully this works, our Zoom call with our staff here from XFL News Hub. We're going live right now. Oh, let me hold on a second. Yes, I got it working. All right, guys, you are live on the air. We've got Mike Mitchell, Anthony Miller, Evan Wilsmore, and Pat Ruffino. What's up, guys? Thanks for being on the program. You can hear me all right?
We can hear you. Thanks for having us on.
Okay. Now let me double check because this is all live. Guys in the chat room, can you hear them as well? They'll let us know in the chat. All right, I got the chat on. I think we're good to go. All right, guys. First up, the GOAT, Mike Mitchell. You covered the XFL in 2001. All right, the chat room says yes, they can hear you guys. Cool. You covered the league in 2001. You covered the league in 2020, and now it's back. Your thoughts?
Unbelievable. I mean, a 3-year wait for all of this. It's amazing somehow that there's actually going to be another XFL season. If you'd have told me, over 2 decades ago, that there would be 3 versions of the XFL, I wouldn't have believed you. So as I wrote in my fantasy article a few days back, barring an alien invasion, a nuclear war, which you never know with all the craziness that's going on in the world, or any other crazy catastrophe, hopefully the football gods are a little more fair this time around than they were 3 years ago. But it's exciting. We got to that point where this league was bought out of bankruptcy in 2020 in the summer of that year during the whole COVID craziness. And then we didn't know if there'd be a season in 2021. And then 2022 didn't happen. I remember when 2023 was officially announced, I reported that there wouldn't be any season in 2022. That was a harsh reality for a lot of people to take. But 2023 seems so far out. Like, oh my goodness, that's such a long wait. So
Right.
all the people out there, including the writers and our staff, that have actually, found things to write about and talk about and cover this league and patiently waited. This is exciting time.
So I do want to point out, though, if you go to the Drudge Report, the thing barring alien invasion, right now I'm showing on the screen the Drudge Report talking about these balloons that are flying through the air. So, my thing is that, listen, I'm a big Alf fan. So if there's alien invasion, just do us a favor and just wait until the season's over. We'd really appreciate that. All right.
Hopefully they like football.
Yeah, that's what I'm concerned about. All right, Anthony Miller, you came on board last go around, basically got to report like a week or two, and then the season was over. What's your reaction as now we're finally here, kicking off the 2023 XFL season?
Yeah, it's kind of surreal. I remember at this time 3 years ago, I was preparing to go to my first game for the Dallas Renegades at the time when they were going to take on the St. Louis Battlehawks at previously known as Globe Life Park. And it's kind of surreal that we've gotten back to this point. I wasn't really sure after COVID what was going to happen. It was kind of a lot of unknowns at the time, but it's great to have the league back. It's great to see it in full strength, and it seems to be in better shape than it was 3 years ago, and seems to be poised to be in a better position than it was during the COVID years. So I'm just really excited that the league is back. It's been a long 3 years trying to find other stuff to write about, and with the NFL and Canadian Football League and USFL, but it's just great to get back to where my roots were, which was my first writing gig was covering the XFL. So I'm just glad to be back writing what I love and I'm passionate about.
Awesome. All right, Evan, you're kind of one of the newer guys on the block. What were you doing in 2020? And then, of course, coming to us, writing for us in 2023.
Yeah, well, I definitely had my eye on the league in 2020. I was watching some of the games, never thought that I would have the opportunity to, work with some of the players and coaches and, all the other writers that I've been with now for a year and a half. But really good to see it back, right? I think Anthony and Mike touched on it already, but been a long 3 years, and there was a time where we didn't really know if this was going to come back. You only get so many shots, and, you had the XFL originally in 2001, and then you had it again in 2020, and it looked really good in 2020. It looked improved. It looked fresh. And now I think it's going to be even better in 2023. Hopefully, again, nothing is going to stop us this time, but I think the wait has been worth it. There's been a lot of careful preparation that's gone into this, and I'm just really excited to see the final product kick off here in about a week.
All right. Pat Ruffino, the next one of the OGs, he is a prolific. What's the right word? Writer for us on prolific. I can't even say it. Pat, so where were you in 2020 and now covering the league in 2023?
So I actually just got back off of a contract abroad and was actually fully being a Missourian, getting ready to go to a Battlehawks game. And then when the first strike of COVID happened, I was working as a medic. So before everything shut down, I had to get rid of my tickets, which never came to fruition, and had to go back to New York and kind of help out in the ER at Elmhurst. So this is kind of a weird, big deal to me that it's coming back. It's kind of like I've put a lot of that past stuff behind me as far as like that career. And, now I'm kind of full in on the media a little bit more each day.
All right. So, Mike, we'll start with you. What team are you covering? And can you tell us some things about the team that fans should know about?
I'm covering the DC Defenders for XFL
Yeah.
Newsroom.com. They're one of the more exciting and interesting teams. Half the league's coaches have head coaching experience while the others do not. It's a first go around for guys like Anthony Beck, Terrell Buckley, Rod Woodson, that group, Heinz Ward. But the Barlow's interesting to me because he's had Reggie Barlow, that is the head coach of the DC Defenders. He's had 13 years of college experience. He's got a winning record at a smaller level, lesser known level of Virginia State and Alabama State. But, his winning record, his accolades at that level, I think is an advantage because a lot of these big time coaches in the NFL and major college programs like Oklahoma, they're used to getting 5-star recruits and all these top notch prospects that beg them to come play for them. And a guy like Reggie Barlow's, he's coached on a lesser level and he's won on a lesser level. And I think that's, in the XFL, you have a lot of players that are unproven or a lot of guys that are in similar situations, come from smaller schools or undrafted or overlooked prospects. But you also have a lot of guys that have NFL experience. You got over 300 players in the XFL 2023 that have NFL experience. So Barlow's kind of, I hate to say it this way, kind of stepping up in weight class in terms of coaching on the pro level, but he's also stepping up from a talent perspective. He's produced NFL players before. You've seen the Isaiah Crowells and other players like that. But he's going to get an opportunity to coach a lot of these players, these diamonds in the rough that have been overlooked. And I think he has an advantage because of that. As from a team roster standpoint, I really like their makeup. Von Hutchins has done a tremendous job putting that roster together, formulating it for that coaching staff. I think Greg Williams is a very interesting defensive coordinator for them. They're going to be aggressive. So that they're going to be fun to watch. They got some real good talents on that side of the ball. But offensively, with Fred Keiss as their offensive coordinator, I think they're going to be run heavy. I think they're going to be multiple. Watch out for Jaquez Ezzard. I love their three-headed quarterback room there with Jordan Teamo, De'Ara King, and Eric Dungy. Those are all mobile quarterbacks who have different skill sets that can all dress and be used during games. King has experience at wide receiver. Dungy has experience at tight end. It'll be fun to see how they use them. That backfield is very talented. A lot of NFL quality runners, guys who were on NFL rosters within the last year. Abram Smith, obviously the lead dog in that equation, 5th in the nation in rushing last year at Baylor. They have a very talented young offensive line. I see the odds makers, for whatever reason, are overlooking DC. And that's their mistake. If you're looking for a sleeper team that could potentially win it all, I think DC is going to be really good. I think they just have a lot of very good components. And that's a big thing with Reggie Barlow. He's got a lot of his assistants with him. 8 of 10 guys on his staff either coached or played with him. So that's a good synergy to have in these types of leagues, especially in the early going where you have to go through a learning curve, gelling, getting used to your talent, that kind of thing. So I think DC is one of the more interesting rosters, and they might have the best quarterback in the league. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Do you think so? A lot of the teams in the XFL seem to be kind of on that pass, the June Jones style of passing. Anthony Miller, you were there. You're there on the ground. You are there at the hub, able to go to these kind of events. Talk about the Renegades, the Dallas/Arlington Renegades, and what's your impressions of them? Yeah, you're the one of the few guys that actually gets to see them in person.
Yeah, so this team is going to look kind of different from what they did in 2020. So, I mean, even though Bob Stoops is back, he's the only returning head coach. But, I mean, you talk about the coaching staff he has. It's a very deep coaching staff. He's got Jonathan Hayes, who was the head coach for the St. Louis Battlehawks. He's got Chuck Long, that Jonathan Hayes is bringing back from his Battlehawks coaching staff. They're both going to run the offense. You look at the defense. On the defensive side, they got Jay Hayes, who was the defensive coordinator for the Battlehawks in 2020. Tim Lewis, who just came off his stint with the Houston Gamblers last year. I mean, when you look at how the Renegades are going to be. 3 years ago, they ran the Hal Mummy air raid offense, so they were all about passing the football. This is going to be a little bit different. They are going to run a spread offense, but I think it's going to be a lot more of trying to be a balanced attack. That's something Bob Stoops talked about during the open practice, that he wanted to have a more balanced attack. He felt a lot more comfortable with the quarterback room than it was 3 years ago. He loves Kyle Sloter. He loves Drew Plitt. He loves Kevin Anderson. He feels like it's a deeper quarterback room and a more comfortable one, just because 3 years ago, Landry Jones got hurt very first day of training camp. So there was a little bit of confusion and, a lot of inexperience when it came down to the quarterback room. So he feels a lot better about it this time around. When you look at this team, some guys to watch out for: Keith Ford, Davion Smith are going to be very good in the backfield. Keith Ford's got a lot of experience with Jonathan Hayes' offense 3 years ago, so he's going to be a guy to watch out for. Sal Cannella at tight end, he's probably going to be, if Kyle Sloter ends up winning the job, which he seems to be lined up for, Sal Cannella is probably going to be his number one target. They had that connection in the USFL with the New Orleans Breakers. There's a strong offensive line as well. Cameron Hunt and Gary McGinn were both first-team all USFL players last year, so I expect both of those guys to make an impact. And when you look at defensively, this secondary is the deepest in the league. You got Devontae Bugsby, you got Josh Hawkins, you got Crayvon LeBlanc, you got Will Hill, Jamal Carter. These are guys that have played in the NFL, who have played in alternative football leagues, and had a lot of success. And not only from that side, but when you look at the special teams, Taylor Rosarino and Marquette King, that's the best 1-2 punch in the XFL. So this is a very deep roster for the Renegades, where I think the secondary is very strong. I think some of the questions comes, what's going to happen with the wide receivers? We know Jordan Smallwood, has the ability of being a number one receiver, but there's a lot of younger guys on that group who can step up from the receiving core. And then there's still questions about who the quarterback's going to be. I still believe Kyle Sloter is probably going to win that job, but it'll be interesting to see how the Renegades come out. They're one of the favorites to take the XFL title, so it'll be interesting to see how the team plays out.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think they had the best draft by far in the XFL going into the season. All right, Evan, tell fans about the team that you're covering and what's your impressions of them.
Yep. So I'll be covering the Houston Roughnecks, who went undefeated in 2020. Obviously, before COVID shut them down, they were 5-0. At that time, they were led by June Jones, who's currently the offensive coordinator in Seattle. This time around, we're going with Wade Phillips, who I'm sure many people know who Wade Phillips is. Arguably the most experienced head coach in the XFL. At this point, he's probably got 40, 50 years of NFL and college experience combined. So, definitely someone to look out for in terms of, the ability to lead a team and to guide them in the right direction with experience. Again, very defensive-minded head coach, but I think the offense on the Roughnecks is going to be a focal point because our offensive coordinator is AJ Smith, who is returning from June Jones's staff in 2020 when he was the wide receivers coach. And we're going to be doing a lot of, the air raid, run and shoot offense. So, a lot of throwing the ball. I believe Cole McDonald in a recent podcast said up to 50 or 60 times a game. So expect a lot of 4 or 5 receiver sets, empty backfield. And I think the definition of this team on offense is versatility. We have a lot of guys that can play multiple positions. Look at somebody like Garrett Owens, who we drafted in the second round, who is technically listed as a tight end, but really his role is more of a hybrid, running back / wide receiver. And then we've got Nick Hawley coming back from 2020, who is sized more like a running back and played some running back in college, but operates more out of the traditional slot position there at wide receiver. So a lot of versatility all around. And this is definitely going to be a team on offense who is throwing the ball probably more than anybody. Maybe June Jones again in Seattle could give them a run for their money because they don't even have a single tight end on the roster. But I'm really excited to see what Houston could do, and especially with their quarterback room. That's another thing to touch on. Right now, our quarterbacks are Brandon Silvers, Cole McDonald, and Caleb Ellaby. Ellaby's kind of the, I guess, odd man out in terms of the system because they did a lot of RPO when he was at Western Michigan. But coming out from there in this draft cycle or in 2022, he was very highly looked at, went to a couple mini camps, I believe. But the guys that are really competing for the starting job, I believe, are Brandon Silvers and Cole McDonald. So Silvers played with AJ Smith in the spring league in 2021, was very good there. He was originally with Seattle in 2020, but didn't have the best going. And then Cole is a bit more unproven, but he has a lot more upside, in my opinion. Came from Hawaii. Recently did an article about him got drafted, played for the Titans, then the Cardinals, went on up to the CFL last year to play for the Argonauts. They didn't start a game. He played in one game, kind of as the third string guy at the very end of the season. And, this appears to be his best shot yet at starting in any league. So excited for him and really just excited to see the ball get rolling.
So Philip Ramirez on chat says Roughnecks are going to shock people this season. Evan, do you agree? And who do you think is going to be the starting quarterback?
Well, I definitely think, the main focus right now is to continue the undefeated streak, right? We were the most successful XFL team in 2020. And I believe that, we could surprise people. Our roster, unlike some other rosters, has, a lot less proven guys. Again, it's more guys that are meant to fit the system rather than guys, with a ton of name value and experience attached. But let's see. In terms of the starting quarterback, I did put in that Cole McDonald article that I do believe him to start at some point. There's a chance. And, right now I'd say it's maybe 50-50 that Silvers does open the season. But I believe his leash is very thin. Both guys are very good. Again, Silvers, is considered a safer option because he has more experience. He's played in the XFL before, and he's returning with a guy who he was very successful with in the spring league. But I think for the majority of the season, we'll probably see Cole McDonald, and hopefully we'll find that out for sure either tomorrow or Wednesday, sometime a bit before kickoff on Saturday.
Yeah, we're hoping that those names come out. Now, Pat Ruffino's covering the Battlehawks. They made a big news with Ryan Willis getting let go. So, Pat, what's your impressions of the Battlehawks, and who do you think is going to be the starting quarterback with them?
Well, Coach Beck has talked about the leadership and the character of A.J. McCarron. As Mike has probably known for a while, McCarron has been Beck's guy for the last couple months, despite Willis being the first guy leaked in September. I'm really excited about seeing some of these receivers. Coach has been really vocal about how excited he is to see Marcel Atman and Darius Shepard from, USFL General, New Jersey General player. There's also a plethora there's also a lot of retreads from the AAS that are on this. The biggest question I have is their secondary. They got rid of Quinton. Obviously, Channing Stribling went to the Stars. Obi Melafanu was cut. So there's a couple questions coming in. But you do have a guy like Levert Hill, Ben DeLuca, Nate Meters, all guys who have kind of been on those fringe NFL teams, with Meters most recently being on a practice squad before coming over the XFL. So I do think there's a lot of potential with the Battlehawks to continue to be an extremely, top 4 team in this league and make a playoff run.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's critical for the Battlehawks to have a good showing because I think that place will be packed no matter what, but I think it's really critical for the league to that team in particular plays well on the field. And we'll have to find out. All right, let's get to your questions in the chat room. That's why you're here. Benjamin Turek says, we'll give this one to Mike Mitchell. Who do you think will be the defensive player to watch in 2023? Best defensive player.
Best defensive player, I'd say Davin Bellamy. Pass rusher. He's going to be playing in the 3-4 edge rusher for the Defenders. He was excellent in the USFL last year. I think in Greg Williams' defense, which is going to be multiple, that's a player people maybe are not paying attention to enough. I think he's going to be excellent for the team. He's a good veteran, and I think he could be a double-digit sack guy, even though it's only a 10-game season.
Yeah. Richard's question, this is open to everybody. How many players from the FCF Fan Control Football made the league? I know quarterback Mitch Kidd didn't make it. I think Tommy Auger didn't make it. DeAndre Francois is still there. I would say maybe half of the guys that got drafted made it to the XFL.
I'm not the biggest FCF guy, but isn't Andrew Jamil
yes.
FCF guy, wide receiver, talented, very talented. Orlando Guardians have a good wide receiver room there. He's one of the players that I know offhand. I'm not a big FCF guy, as I mentioned.
Yeah. All right.
Bryce Allen.
Bryce Allen was one of them, you said?
Yeah, he was a running back. I forget what team he was on, but I think 11 Yeah, 11 original draftees. I know about the supplemental. That November draft had 11 guys, and I think half of them are here still.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, Anthony Miller. This one's from Benjamin. He says, prediction for best receiving / running back. Who's the best receiver? I'll leave this up to all of you guys. We'll start with Anthony. Who do you think is the best wide receiver and running back in the XFL?
Best wide receiver I'd probably say Josh Gordon with the Sea Dragons, just obviously just the success he had when he was with the Cleveland Browns in the mid-2000s. He had a couple really good seasons where he was considered an all-pro, one of the best receivers in the league. So he probably comes in as a favorite to be probably the best receiver. I mean, Martavius Bryant's probably going to give him a run for his money as well, but I like Josh Gordon in that role. And then, I mean, best running back, I mean, I think Abram Smith is a really solid pick. I mean, he's obviously was one of the top picks for a reason, just the success he had in college. I think he's a guy that can come in, a young guy with a lot of experience with success. I can see him being one of the top backs in the league.
Evan, what about you? Who do you think best running back, best wide receiver?
Yeah, it's a tough question. I mean, Anthony kind of took the words out of my mouth, in terms of receiver. I think Josh Gordon and Martavis Bryant, given their pedigree, are definitely up there. We'll have to see if age is caught up to them, especially with Bryant, because it's been a while since he's played, NFL or CFL, or I don't know. He might have had a stint in the FCF, but again, I'm not an FCF master of knowledge, so I'll stay away from talking about that. But in terms of, I mean, I guess I'll touch on my team. In terms of the Roughnecks, I think our top receiver, he has the potential is Cedric Bird, who played at Hawaii with Cole McDonald. And again, I included that in my recent article. A bit undersized. And I think part of the reason that he didn't get drafted or didn't receive interest from many NFL teams even after the draft was, I think he tested poorly at the combine with his speed. I mean, he's generally fast, but I think he had a poor 40 time. I'd have to go back and double check that. But he's a guy I'm really excited to see because, again, he's very unproven, but he put up some big numbers in college in that same offense that they're going to run. So I think that's a good pick there. And then running back, I mean, again, off the top of my head, I got to think about all the running backs in the league. But again, yeah, Abram Smith, I mean, unproven guy, like hasn't really had an opportunity yet, was an undrafted free agent in the past draft cycle. But again, I think Mike said he was 5th in rushing last year in college football, which is pretty impressive. So would be exciting to see that. And especially given he was the number 1 overall pick, I think there'll definitely be more eyes on him in that sense.
So Rangers King 669 said Josh Gordon and Martavis Bryant were both in the Fan Control Football. So I did forget about that.
Oh, that's
one.
right. That's right.
Pat, we got a question from Rangers King 669. He says Manny Wilkins really seems like a different offensive fit to the profile of quarterbacks Beck was normally bringing in. Do we think you could see some goal line or red zone sets for him? What are your impressions of Manny Wilkins, the replacement for Ryan Willis?
Well, Coach Beck today talked about Wilkins a decent amount. I kind of prodded a little bit about the Dave Bowler connection. Granted, when Bowler was at ASU, and Mike brought this up yesterday when I talked about it, he was there from, I think, 83 to like 96. But Wilkins, what Coach Beck liked about Wilkins, he said, was the connection to the LaFleur tree and whatnot. And that kind of details the type of offense they'll be running. So he's saying it's a decent amount of terminology and whatnot that Wilkins may have seen in 2020 and 2019 when he was with the Packers. And that was something he harped on in the conversation this morning a decent amount.
Oh. So, Mike, this one is for you. Lewis is saying, did you all catch the USFL's little diss of the XFL during the Super Bowl? I guess talking about real football would return in 8 weeks or something like that, Mike. Now, I just preface that we kind of get, I want to make this very clear that XFL, like these guys that report on the XFL also love the USFL. Some of us, I watch that Fan Control Football League. And CFL, like we cover it all, but we kind of get pigeonholed sometimes as like, oh, well, you're XFL guys. We're all football nerds. But did you catch that commercial? I saw it. I didn't really think of it was a diss. I mean, they're not going to be like, oh, go ahead and watch the XFL before us. I mean, come on.
No, but I agree with what you're saying. There are two ways of thinking on this. Do you even acknowledge the competition at all?
No, ESPN
Because
didn't
during
acknowledge them.
Yeah, so because when you listen to the USFL commercials, it's plain as day, the digs, right? So, it's recognize the real pro football. There's a Hollywood reference, knockoff league. There's like a fake photo shoot which almost looks like a Brahma's uniform, where they're like, like insinuation that any other leagues, these are pretend leagues, they're doing Hollywood photo shoots. It's not a real genuine football league. I don't know. It's like I said, there are two ways to go about it. It's kind of cute and funny to take little digs, but you may be better off not even mentioning the other league. That's not even acknowledging their presence. The USFL's got a lot of good things going for them. They're going into year 2. They've got awesome broadcast partners. They're finally moving into some of their home stadiums. So, I mean, 3 of the teams are going to be playing home games. That's a big improvement from last year. Baby steps, but a positive step forward. Quality football league, a lot of good talent in it. So I don't know. I saw that one of the XFL social sites, took a dig back at the USFL, and maybe a couple of others made little comments here and there. But like in this space, I think this is awesome what's happening. So I like the fact that they're competing with each other. It makes the both sides better. They have to bring their A game. So that's a good thing. Competition always, creates a championship environment. And I'm just happy, like I wrote about in my USFL, XFL article yesterday, that, for a stretch, for however long this lasts, 808 players are going to be playing professional football in 2023, starting with this coming Saturday on ABC with the XFL. So I think if you acknowledge the other side, to me, you're almost acknowledging that they're a threat.
Yeah.
They're on your radar. And, US people who work within the USFL will say, we're not scared of them. We're not thinking about them. We don't care about them. But of course they're paying attention. And then of course they noticed, when nearly 70 of their players jumped ship to the other league. Of course they noticed when a lot of their assistant coaches went to the other side. They had to know that was coming. So, and I believe Pat has the numbers on this, but I believe 49 USFL players ended up making the final XFL rosters. It may be off by 1 or 2 there, but thereabouts. So I think it's great for the landscape. I don't know how long we're going to have this. The pettiness, oh well, it comes with the territory, I suppose. But I think I'm of the ilk. Maybe it's because I'm a little bit older. Take the high ground.
Yeah, yeah. So what do you guys? So Rock and Roll Alien, who could maybe this Rock and Roll Aliens, it's their fault that we're getting these balloons. So Rock and Roll Alien, please tell your friends to wait till after both the XFL and USFL finish their season. We appreciate that. But he's talking about single game ticket sales. Have any of you guys heard anything about ticket sales in your markets?
DC's doing pretty well. The early projection is that they're going to have anywhere from 10 to 12,000. That's the word I got before I came on with you guys. I'm getting some messaging there. Now, the Defenders had a good walk-up crowd. The last time, I know they averaged 16,000 per game. I would say that's pretty good, all things considered. Sunday night is not the easiest. I know the game's going to be on ESPN. It's not the easiest night for families to go out and,
The schools are closed the next day. Schools are closed.
Good. That helps.
So that helps.
That helps for sure. So, and we'll see how the weather is in the district there on Sunday night. But they have good walk-up crowds. The Defenders did back in 2020, and there's a lot of enthusiasm. Can they recapture the magic they had 3 years ago? Because those crowds were lit for Defenders game, and obviously the beer snake became viral, and it was a fun atmosphere, like a college-like atmosphere with fans carrying shields and everything else. So it should be a fun environment, atmosphere. And thus far, I can't speak for all the teams in the XFL. I know some are doing better than others, but DC's okay. Their sales are okay so far.
Anthony or Evan, have you guys heard anything about ticket sales in your guys' neck of the woods?
Last I checked with the Renegades, I think they had under 1,000 seats open left. So I think they're doing pretty well with it. I mean, back in 2020, I think they did over 17,000 their first game. So I probably project that the Renegades will probably be around 15 to 17,000 this second time around. But last I checked on Ticketmaster a couple of days ago, they were doing really well. I think they're under 1,000 seats left.
Gotcha. What about you, Evan? You hear anything?
Yeah, I know the Roughnecks were I don't want to say struggling, but I know we were kind of towards the bottom, I guess, of the tier, and that was a bit surprising because we play Saturday night, and I'll be at that game. But I think it'll pick up. Again, it's a pretty quick turnaround from the Super Bowl, so I imagine that this week, I'm starting today. Really, people start looking into it now that we've kind of got past the big game and we've got time to really, focus on this league now that we're officially in the full swing. I mean, for us, we've been in the full swing for a bit, but for
Yes.
some fans, I think they're still catching up. But anyway, I do expect ticket sales to pick up a bit, but I haven't checked as of now what they're at. I just know a couple days ago, maybe Friday or Saturday, there were some rumblings that were, kind of people were saying, hey, we need to sell more tickets, was pretty much the vibe then.
Yeah, what I've been hearing is that this week is the biggest week of ticket sales, and it was like that way in 2020. So let's see some other question. We're talking about ticket sales here. We talked about that. What is your Richard is asking, Mike, have you heard anything about the weekly XFL shows? I mean, there was something I posted today about the Player 54 thing. Have you heard anything about TV shows?
Just the information that's been out there right now. It looks like there's going to be ABC is going to have a Player 54 show on also this coming weekend. We see that they're on the schedule for ESPN, ESPN2. That's great. That's great. That's something I kind of wished in 2020. I know there was a show with Coach Jonathan Coachman and all that, and there was like little online social media stuff. But I love the preview shows just to get to know the players, to break down the matchups. We'll see how detailed these are. I think those first few shows that we get are going to be a lot of the stuff they've been filming and kind of background on some of their key players with the league. And, obviously the mission statement from The Rock and Danny and everybody else, Redbird. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do these shows. I'm hoping that there's breakdown analysis of games coming out of week 1, week 2, etc. I don't mind the player profile pieces. Those are great too. That's, you want to get these guys' names out there, their brand, everything. But I'd like maybe my football nerd side would love to see, breakdown of the Brahmas defensive line going up against the defenders offensive line, that kind of thing. So the more the merrier. I haven't heard an expansion of that, but I think as we're seeing with the TV schedule coming out, there's quite a bit. There's quite a bit of XFL, these XFL shows that are spread out over the schedule on different days. So in case you missed it on a particular day, it'll be on the next day, that kind of thing, on different ESPN channels. And I think it's great that it's going to be on ABC on game day. So that's a good thing.
So Anthony, did you get a chance to check like that Jordan Palmer video and those coaches sitting together? What was your impressions of some of the content that they're starting to put out as far as like the TV stuff?
I mean, as a football nerd, the Jordan Palmer stuff was great to watch, and how he's working with the quarterbacks and developing them. I mean, that's the big separation with the XFL that we really haven't seen from other leagues, is the importance they are putting on when it comes down to making sure the quarterbacks are prepared and playing at a high level. Because at the end, because every time an alternative football league comes, everyone talks about the play of the quarterback. So it's great to be able to see the behind the scenes and how Jordan Palmer is working with these quarterbacks and making sure they're developing their skills, not only by coaching them, but using, technology and data to be able to understand how they drop back, how they should throw it, what their throw motion looks like. I think that stuff is really important to make sure you're working on the mechanics of the quarterbacks and they're playing at a high level. And then just the coach roundtable, I did get to watch that as well. It's really cool to kind of see all those coaches interact, especially with like Wade Phillips and Bob Stoops, which I know they've had a lot of interactions. Hines Ward was there too. So it was good to kind of hear the personal side of it and why they, wanted to come to the XFL. Bob Stoops talking about why he came back to the XFL. So it was just cool to hear those stories and hear each other interact, because I know these guys are going to compete with each other at the end of the day, but it also feels like a very close, cohesive family that the coaching staff has, just because everyone's in Arlington, they're all together and they're able to kind of feed off each other and help each other out.
Yeah, that's funny that you bring that up, because it almost that was a nice byproduct of having to put them all together, is to give them a chance to get to know each other and help, and the older coaches. I mean, they were all putting each other over during that show, and they just released the second one, which was the teams from the north That just came out about an hour before we came live. All right, Evan, Greg's got a question for you. Anyone care to venture a guess as to where these leagues will be, say, 3 years down the road? That's assuming they both survive that long. And he says, by the way, Gregory is a fan of the beer snake. So, Evan, where do you see the XFL 3 years from now?
I mean, I certainly hope that it's around 3 years from now. I mean, that would be a huge step just for it to be there, let alone for it to have developed, because the big storyline, in recent years, I mean, obviously XFL 2.0 was shut down because of COVID. But before that, you had the AAF, which there was some management issues, some money issues, and that resulted in the league being shut down before it even finished their first season. The USFL came in last year, and, obviously they had a full season, right? But there were some cost-cutting measures, like having a hub format. It didn't always feel like a traditional league, I guess. To me, it reminded me a lot of the spring league, which was a lot more, sort of a developmental format. Again, that doesn't mean, I'm not trying to say the quality of play was bad or anything like that. It's not a slight against anybody, but just pointing that out. So I would really hope that the XFL, 2, 3, 4 years down the line, I think one of the biggest things is touching on those home markets, because you want to really establish a fan base and connect with the city. I think the XFL has done a great job of doing that so far. But again, when you're in a league like the USFL, who has a hub format, it's kind of harder to establish those connections with fans. And it's also hard to establish connections with fans if your league just shuts down, before you really have a chance. Do I think that'll happen again? No, I think this has been, again, very well handled. The structure is very nicely laid out. I do like the sort of hub format in the sense of practices and meetings in Arlington. I hope that they keep that moving forward, because I think it'll help game planning, and you also have the ability to scrimmage against other teams, like right there on site, as opposed to having to do any traveling. So keeping that down the line, I think, would help, and especially with costs too. So really, I think what it comes down to is, establishing the teams in the markets, and building a connection with the fans that lasts a long time, to make sure that, again, your funds are in a place where you have enough going on, but you don't overspend, and you don't, try and do too much. Because I think in the AAF, they had a lot of cool, I remember they had some pretty cool technology going on, and there was some stuff with gambling too, and like the fantasy. Again, that's all off the top of my head, but I feel like they were putting a lot of time and money into that right away, as opposed to actually investing into some of the hard product, which really at the end of the day is more important. So again, looking out for things like that. And then I think the final thing would probably have to be just making sure that the quality of players that come into the league, stays at a level where both you're finding players that haven't had an opportunity yet, because the XFL is marketing themselves as a league of opportunity, but also finding players that make the game watchable. And again, that's not a slight against anybody, but many times we've seen in these leagues, the quality of play is sometimes not up to standard, which therefore leads to games not being entertaining. And that has a domino effect on TV ratings, things like that. So I just think those three things that I touched on are probably the most important, if the XFL wants to continue to be sustainable.
Yeah, but the USFL and XFL, that business model, I mean, I've brought it up too. I'm like concerned, what are you guys going to do during the off season? Are, all these ticket sales, you have, 10 people doing ticket sales. I mean, how much money does the tickets are so cheap? Where does that revenue come? And you have the USFL's business model, which is kind of a slower growth. So I think 3 years will be good. I think both will be around for 3 years. I also wanted to touch on something that Jonathan Hayes said in my interview last week. The players will be traveling together to the city, and more importantly, when they come home. So could you imagine the Eagles and the Chiefs flying home together on that plane after that game? So that's going to be interesting. But the USFL is going to have to do that too, in some respects. So,
what's interesting is like some of these smaller leagues, it's less adversarial than you have like a big NFL where it's 32 teams. Like they're all in this together. Like, obviously these teams want to compete, they want to win, they want to beat the other teams, but they're kind of all in this together because they understand that if the quality of play is good, that these leagues survive, that it's going to be so great for everybody. You got, over 400 players that are employed, all the coaches, employees, all that. So even though when they get on the field, they're enemies, I think there's more camaraderie between these teams, and there's more of unity because they're building something together, so they're trying to build a new league together. So I think that's kind of the different dynamic there. In the future, there'll probably be less of that when these teams eventually go into their markets, set up shop in there. But in the early stages, it's kind of a cool thing, for them to have this kind of unification.
Yeah. All right, Mike. Let's wrap this thing up. So, do you have any? Do you have any other insider tidbits you might want to drop on us before we kind of go through the roundtable one more time? Got anything for us?
Ooh, CFL free agency is starting tomorrow. And the reason why I bring that up is I don't know if I could get into this. You put me on the spot. There's a certain prominent CFL free agent that's been reaching out to the XFL. The problem is with that, a pretty good defensive player too. The problem is with that is I don't think that some of these players that are going to be free agents in Canada realize that, especially this type of caliber player, that the pay scale is not going to match what they're going to get in Canada. Even if it's, 200,000 Canadian, that's more than the potential, whatever it is, 93,000 in the XFL. If you win all your games, go undefeated, all that. I think the max a non-quarterback position player can make is 93K. So I don't think we're going to get, I think all of our surprises are spent in terms of like last second player additions. But I just found that interesting that even at the 11th hour, where we're just days away from kickoff on Saturday, that there are players that are hoping, angling to see if they can somehow break in. We all have articles out there with the final roster, 51 player rosters, but in football, there's no such thing as final. These rosters are never final. This isn't Madden. You can't turn off injuries. There's going to be injuries. So it's just the way it goes. So a lot of those players that were cut could come back in, and there's going to be some players who watch the first week of play that go, you know what? Let me just call my agent and see if I can get in on this league.
That's
as
right.
Crazy as that sounds, I remember the XFL. I know this is like many, many moons ago, but I remember the XFL back in 2001. They had a bunch after the first week of play, even though it was panned and all this. There was Canadian players. I remember, I think it was Jimmy the Jet Williams. There were Canadian players that all of a sudden started coming into the league. They wanted to come play in the States. So American guys, right? So I'm not saying that we're going to have a good number of that, but I think there will be some players that show interest. I don't know if it'll be like a TO or somebody, but there will be some players that show interest in playing in the XFL. And like I said, you wanted some insider information. I had an agent reach out to me, ask me, about potentially their client coming to the States and playing in the XFL or the USFL for that matter, which would be cool. This is a prominent player. I can't give the name. This is a very good, very, very good player. So I just don't think that we know some of the quarterbacks, as we've known for a long time, are making six figures in the XFL. Brett Hundley, Jordan Teamu, they're the highest paid in the league. So there might be another one out there. I know Kyle Sloter, the USFL, was fighting hard to get him back. They even hired John DiFilippo to bring him back into the fold there. So I don't think a position player, no matter how good the guy is going to command 100K, let's just say, from the X. Maybe in the future. I would watch out for that with the USFL too. Jim Pop is their director of football administration. In terms of these CFL free agents, if the USFL is willing to, spend a little bit more, I would watch closely because obviously Pop has strong ties to Canada and the CFL championship executive, Argos, other teams won a CFL Grey Cup in America with the Stallions there. So, so anyhow, but not a lot of people remember that, but the Baltimore Stallions there.
I did.
But anyhow, yeah. But so there you have it. So I think that's like one. We think player movement is done. This is it, right? And I would, especially after week one, like with injuries and everything else, there could be some prominent guys who go down. I hope not. There could be some prominent guys who go down, and then all of a sudden, they're, a little bit of what the hell? Let's just bring this guy in.
Yeah.
So we saw with St. Louis with the Ryan Willis situation. I was told that he lost out. Nick Tiano outplayed him in camp. He was informed, so he asked for his release. Maybe not a bad move on his part, career-wise, because if you're number 3 on that depth chart, Your chances of starting, even though crazy things can happen, are not very good. So he's got a shot there in the USFL, maybe give with Memphis and Haley to maybe get an opportunity to start over there. And that's great that these players have these options. And in the future, you had the question earlier to Evan, can these leagues last? You'd be a crazy person to guarantee that they will, because we haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see. But a couple of years from now, I think you could see a lot more CFL players and players of that ilk that jump ship completely. And we already saw the USFL in year 2. Their pay has gone up thanks to the great work of the UFPA and everything else. So we'll see how it goes. But like I said, as far as inside information, I think we're pretty much done with major acquisitions, but I wouldn't rule it out. I wouldn't rule it out because, like I said, there are players still reaching out at the very moment, and I think there'll be some of that once you'll see the activity pick up league-wise in terms of social media following once the games air on ABC and ESPN, and you'll see people whose interest picks up for the site and for other sites that cover this league, and interest amongst players and agents when they see the type of quality the league provides over the weekend.
Yeah. Well, our traffic for USFL News Hub and XFL News Hub was fantastic during the Super Bowl. All right, final question. Now, and I'm going to save you. Who's winning the USFL? Who is winning the XFL championship? But it can't be the team that you cover. You can't pick them. So let's start with Evan Evan, you first. Who's winning the XFL championship?
Ooh, put me on the spot with that one. Well, Anthony touched on it before, and even though the Renegades are a big rival of the Roughnecks, I would give them a pretty good shot, just because, again, Bob Stoops is coming back. They have a bunch of guys returning, and then a bunch of guys with that NFL pedigree. I like the Brahmas too. Again, all these Texas teams. Not saying that it's guaranteed one of them is going to win, but the fact that 3 of the 8 teams are in Texas really says something. So those guys too, I think, are in the runner-up, but I'd have to pick either between the Renegades and the Brahmas, I guess. I haven't done a full deep dive into every roster. I've, of course, glazed over every one of them, and I know, where people are and where people aren't. But I would, I'd maybe put some money on that if I couldn't put it on my own team. But yeah.
Oh, gotcha. All right, Anthony, who's winning the XFL championship? And can't be the Renegades.
Yeah, you're making it tough, aren't you? I'm gonna say the Vipers, just because their offense looks so good on paper. Brent Huntley is going to come in, and even if he struggles, Luis Perez has already been a proven winner. I think that quarterback room is probably the best in the league. I love the receiving core. Their receiving core is so good between Martavius Bryant, Geronimo Allison, Jeff Badet. That receiving core is so good for the Vipers. They're going to put up a lot of points. That offensive line is even really solid. Khalil McKenzie's a really good offensive lineman. That's a really solid unit. Defensively, there's going to be some questions about that unit, but really that offense is going to put up a lot of points. So I really like what Rod Woodson has done with that team, and he's a defensive coach, so even if the names aren't big, he knows how to put a good defense together, so I trust him on that. He just needed to bring someone in to build that offense, and I think that offense is really stacked. So even like this weekend, I have questions about the Renegades, how they're going to do against the Vipers offense. That has the potential of being a really good matchup. I'm going to go with the Vipers.
All right, Mike, question to you.
All right. So as far as your first question, USFL, I say the Stars. I think they'll beat the Stallions in a rematch. Cookins will return to glory. As far as the XFL goes, not the Guardians. So hopefully that'll probably age poorly in a few months, and all of a sudden Buckley's squad's hoisting the trophy. No, but I think Houston is definitely a team that I'm tempted to say will win it all, because I'm such a huge fan of Wade Phillips. And I think that, how can that defense not be good? He's got Brian Stewart on that staff with him. And I think Cole McDonald has MVP potential, can be this league's PJ Walker. But it's hard to go against the Renegades. So I'm going to say the Renegades are going to hoist the trophy, just because I think, we'll see what happens at the quarterback position. I know there's a lot of smoke right now that they really like Drew Plitt, and that would be a shocker if he started over Kyle Sloter. But I like that Sloter-Canella combination. I think the only question I have with Arlington, I think their coaching staff is the best in the league overall. It's like an Avengers team up. On that side there. There's just so good. Jonathan Himbaugh's tremendous. He just won a championship with the Stallions in USFL. He's been a tremendous offensive line coach, won Grey Cups in Canada. And they have really good talent on that offensive line. The only question I have with Arlington, a little bit the age I worry about defensively. We'll see how that stacks up against a lot of these younger players in the league. We'll see if they can live up to the billing on. Arlington, the issue with them, I think, is the wide receiver position, whether or not who can emerge. I happen to like Tyler Vaughns from USC. I think he can be a sleeper if you're into fantasy. I'm going to take Arlington because of that coaching staff. But if you're asking me like which team I think, you know what, I'm switching it. I'm going to take the Roughnecks because I'm going to go on a limb. Right. I like AJ Smith. I like that offense. And I think when you have Wade Phillips and Brian Stewart, they're guaranteed to have a good defense as far as I'm concerned. So and I have a lot of faith in that team. It contingent upon Mr. McDonald taking over that farm.
Gotcha. All right. I will suck up to the chat room and say the Battlehawks are going to win it all. So they're all right. Now they're calmed down. All right, Evan, tell everybody where they can find you on social media.
Yep. I'm on Twitter, Evan_Wilsmore. That's where I do most of my work and business. That's really about it, to be honest.
All right. And Anthony, where can people find you on the socials?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter @ByAnthonyMiller. All
right. And Mike Mitchell, where can they find you?
You can find me @by Mike Mitchell, ByMikeMitchell. And please do follow these guys, Pat, Anthony, Evan.
Yep. They're
doing tremendous work. Sam's not on us with us right here at the moment, Sam Shady. It's a very good group of guys there. XFLNewsHub.com, CFLNewsHub.com, USFLNewsHub.com. Pat Rufano's one of the best. And NFL QB Talk, he's definitely worth a follow. Yep. Check out his work. Extremely intelligent, does his research. It's cool that he's a team member. I'm glad he's on my side because if he wasn't, I'd have to look over my shoulder.
All right, guys. Hey, enjoy this weekend's games, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
All right. What's up, XFL Army? If you're a fan of the XFL News Hub and you have a telephone, which I know all of you do because you're sitting there playing on your phones all the time, then why not download the XFL News Hub app? That's right, it's on iTunes. It's on Android. We have an Android version and an iPhone version of the XFL News Hub app. So what do you get? You get the latest news from XFL News Hub, the premier source of XFL news in the universe. Plus, you get push notifications when we have breaking news. You will be the first to know. You can leave a comment on some of the news right from your phone. Plus, you get this podcast on your phone as well. Remember, you can leave us reviews on the Google Play Store or iTunes. It links to other social media, our other social media accounts, and so much more. Be in the know. I know you're on your phones. People are on their phones all the time. They never get off their phones. So why not just download the XFL News Hub app on your Android or iPhone today? All you need to do is go to the Google Play Store or iTunes and just type in XFL News Hub. That's XFL News Hub. Download our app on your phone today. XFL Fantasy Football is right around the corner. Mike Mitchell has his player rankings by position, so we're hopeful that, haven't heard just yet, but we got the league just kicking off just days away, and we're waiting to hear from DraftKings as it comes to fantasy football. You can also go to play fantasy football on newshubfantasy.com is one place. Also, that's Alt Football Fantasy is the other one. What is it called? Where is it? There's another. That's the other one too. Plus, you can check out outlets like runthesims.com to get your player behind the scenes data to use for your DraftKings stuff. Remember, use the promo code NewsHub for Run the Sims, and you can get all the data that you need. We don't know what the deal is with Sports Radar. They were the ones that kind of had done it in the past. But we don't know who is going to be the data provider for the XFL. But we do know that you can play fantasy football on newshubfantasy.com. There's also altfantasysports.com. That's the other one, too. So those are where you can play. those run the Sims where you could get 10% off by using the promo code NewsHub, where you can get your data analytics stuff to help you figure out your lineups and play DFS and DraftKings or whatever. So here's Mike Mitchell's fantasy football rankings for 2023. So at quarterback, number 1, he's got Jordan Ta'amu, DC Defenders. 2, Ben DiNucci, Seattle Sea Dragons. 3, Kyle Sloter, Arlington Renegades. 4, Brett Huntley. Surprised Huntley didn't go higher. He's with the Vegas Vipers. 5, Brandon Silvers, Houston Roughnecks. Reed Sinnett, San Antonio Brahmas. AJ McCarron with the St. Louis Battlehawks. And Paxton Lynch are your Orlando Guardians. Now, granted, all of this can change after the first week, but this is just kind of week 1. There's guys like Luis Perez, Drew Plitt, Cole McDonald, Steve Montez, Jack Cohen, De'Ara King, and DeAndre Francois. Those are guys that could potentially be starters. If you remember the XFL in 2020, the teams played by week 3, you had different quarterbacks. DC Defenders had a different quarterback. Seattle had a different quarterback. So this could definitely happen in this league. But just to start, those are your quarterbacks. If you go down the line, what are you talking about? Running backs? Well, the number 1 overall pick, Abram Smith of the DC Defenders. Jaquez Patrick, San Antonio Brahmas, played a lot, was definitely on a lot of practice squads. I believe the Cincinnati Bengals for a lot. Mateo Durant, St. Louis Battlehawks. Number 4, Adrian Killens, Arlington Renegades. John Lovett, Vegas Vipers at number 5. Jahab Maine Martin, Orlando Guardians. Dejoun Lee, Houston Roughnecks. TJ Hammonds, Seattle Sea Dragons. Devon Smith, Arlington Renegades at number 9. Puka Williams, DC Defenders, that can also play wide receiver. 11, Keith Ford, Arlington Renegades. 12, Max Borgani, Houston Roughnecks. 13, Devin Darrington, Orlando Guardians. 14, Brian Hill, St. Louis Battlehawks. 15, Nick Holly, also could play wide receiver. Raquel Armstead, DC Defenders. At 17, Brycene Aileen, Houston Roughnecks. Number 18, Brendan Knox, Seattle Sea Dragons. Number 19, Kalen Balaj, San Antonio Brahmas. You'd think that he would be on a little bit higher. 20, DeAndre Torrey, Vegas Vipers. John Hillman, Brahmas. Kareem Walker, Battlehawks. Artavis Pierce, the Defenders. Rod Smith at 24, Vegas Vipers. And finally, Morgan Ellison, Seattle Sea Dragons at number 25. But again, we don't know this is early on. We don't know what the depth charts are, but these are just kind of guys to put on your radar that you'll be drafting in your fantasy football league, or guys that you need to look at when it comes to playing DFS, DraftKings, and doing a little gambling. Wide receivers. This one we've been hearing a lot about. Our guy Pat Ruffino has been talking about him a lot. Marcel Aitman, St. Louis Battlehawks, very high on him. Charleston Rambo, Orlando Guardians. Josh Gordon, of course, you know him from the Dragons. Jeff Badette, Vipers. Cedric Bird, Roughnecks. Deontay Burnett, Roughnecks. Jordan Smallwood, Renegades. Juwan Green, Dragons. Jalen Tolliver, San Antonio Brahmas. Remember that name from last go-round. 10, Dejon Pearson, Seattle Sea Dragons. 11, Darius Shepard, Battlehawks. Jaquez Izard, Defenders. Josh Hammond, Defenders. And Lucky Jackson, Defenders. Those 3 Defenders, 12, 13, 14. John Trey Kirkland, Roughnecks. Martavis Bryant, all the way down to number 16 for the Vegas Vipers. And his teammate, I believe, Eli Rogers, Orlando Guardians. Did they play at the same time with the Steelers? Hakeem Butler as Battlehawks. He's also a tight end. Matthew Sexton, Vipers. Number 20, Brandon Arcondo, Arlington Renegades. Number 21, Travis Johnson, Brahmas. Andrew Jamil, Fan Control Football League at number 22 at the Guardians. Lujuan Winningham for the Renegades. 24, Chad Hansen, VC Defenders. Austin Prohl, all the way down. His dad is the wide receivers coach. He's all the way down at number 25 for the Battlehawks. Josh Malone, Defenders. Rennell Hall, Renegades. Tyler Vaughn's Renegades. Darius Robinson, Brahmas. Blake Jackson, Seattle Sea Dragons. Justin Smith at number 31 for the Houston Roughnecks. 32, Fred Brown, San Antonio Brahmas. Geronimo Allison of the Vipers. He's way down there. Dantes Bird, 34 for the Guardians. And finally, Damon Willis for your Seattle Sea Dragons at number 35. Get the full details on write-up of all these guys with Mike Mitchell on XFL News Hub. We're just going through the names And finally, tight end Sal Cannella. Arlington Renegades, Jordan Thomas, Battlehawks, Briley Moore, defenders. Cannella was the best tight end in the USFL. Garrett Owens, Roughnecks, also plays fullback. Giovanni Haskins for Battlehawks could play wide receiver. Leals Mack, Brahmas, Cody Latimer, Guardians, Sean Price, Vipers, Brendan Dillon, Vipers, Charlie Tampiano for the Seattle Sea Dragons, might be playing fullback. Sean Byer, Renegades, and Jamal Pettigrew, San Antonio Brahmas at 12. Those are your tight ends to look at. Kickers, Hunter Duplessis from the Roughnecks, Matthew McCrane, defenders, Taylor Russolino, Renegades, Jose Borgales, Guardians, Dominic Eberly for the Dragons, Donnie Hagman, Battlehawks, John Parker Romo, Brahmas, and Bailey Giffen for the Vipers. And those are your kickers. He's got defense, Roughnecks, Renegades, defenders, Vipers, Brahmas, Sea Dragons, Battlehawks, Guardians at number 8. Though this is a lot, and things can change. We don't know the depth charts right now, but there gives you an idea of Mike Mitchell's top fantasy players for the XFL in the 2023 season. Do you agree? Is he missing anybody's name? We'll just have to let us know in the comments, because we're days away, my friends, days away from XFL kickoff. Did you notice the XFL put out alternate logos, something we reported on a while ago that they were out there? Renegades brought back their old one. Defenders kind of changed their thing. Vipers are new. St. Louis, the Sea Dragons, Brahmas, they all kind of brought back some of those alternate logos. They showed up on T-shirts. I'm sure there'll be more merch to come. I mean, you can make money then. So with cutdown day, each team was mandated to drop to 51 players to their total rosters. Every team compiled the games is set to kick off the 2023 season here soon. The XFL also on the same day released some new look logos for each team, and where we have them right here. So he's got them ranked. Caleb has them ranked for you right here. Let us know what you think in the comments. Number 8, he's got DC Defenders. The district doesn't too much, but they got the Pentagon-shaped design, paying homage to the Pentagon and the defense industry. So DC Defenders at 8. Number 7, Arlington Renegades, bringing back the dude with the look from the original XFL. He has them at number 7. Number 6, the Guardians, the new G kind of looking thing happening there. He's got them at number 6. Number 5, Houston Roughnecks. They've got that H in the middle of that kind of gear thing, which is kind of cool as a secondary logo. Number 4, San Antonio Brahmas. I really like the Brahmas look. This thing is really cool. The Brahmas logos features a modern take on our team's namesake with the horns of a bull and pay homage to the rich culture and history of San Antonio, inspired by Bell Gable architecture and the vibrant colors of Tenjano art. Horns forward. Very cool there. Battlehawks at number 3. The St. Louis Battlehawks secondary logos. The armored Battlehawk and stencil ligature were designed to pay homage to the military heritage of the U.S. Air Force and defense industry that influenced our namesake. So pretty cool there. The Battlehawks. Number 2, Vegas Vipers. They got the LV thing happening. And that, I forget what the other thing is called, the little sharp looking knife thing. And number 1, Seattle Sea Dragons, lurking in the fog of the Puget Sound, a Knotwork Trident secondary logo. Very cool. Got the Trident logo there as well. So what do you think? Well, let's recap one more time. At number 8, you have the DC Defenders. Number 7, Arlington Renegades. Number 6, Orlando Guardians. Number 5, Houston Roughnecks. Number 4, San Antonio Brahmas. Number 3, St. Louis Battlehawks. Number 2, the Las Vegas Vipers. And number 1 alternate logo coming out for last week from the XFL, the Seattle Sea Dragons. Let us know what you think in the comments. Fan Control Sports announced some changes to their schedule. They're moving to the fall. So Fan Control Sports released the following statement to fans. The league plans on focusing its attention and resources to fan control hoops in the summer of 2023. Then Fan Control Football will return in the fall of 2023. Quote, we're calling an audible with the schedule. We had grand plans to run season 3 of Fan Control Football in just a few months and then launch Fan Control Hoops season 1 soon after. We decided to switch the two, and Fan Control Hoops season 1 will come first. This offseason, we've been grinding through training so we can come back bigger and better than ever with a new app, new site, new venue. New venue? What will happen to their other venue? New teams, more celebrity team owners, more players, more coaches, more things for the fans to control in FCF 3.0, and the tip of the new sport in FCH. Fans deserve something really awesome, and we're not going to launch something that doesn't play to that championship standard. As we keep moving the ball down the field through our rugged off-season conditioning, be sure to follow them on social media as they gear up and they talk about, check them out on Twitch. So the move by Fan Control Football kind of makes sense in changing the spring because of the changing spring football landscape. When Fan Control Football launched, there was no USFL or XFL to compete with for players and eyeballs. The league will have to go up against the NFL and college football in the fall. It'll be interesting to see where and when they decide to schedule their FCF games in the fall. I'm thinking it might not be on Saturday or Sunday. That they might be doing a Friday night thing, or maybe a Thursday and Friday. We'll have to kind of find out what they're thinking, because they got to kind of maneuver, and they cannot go head-to-head with the NFL or college football. So this is going to be interesting where they kind of decide this, Lou. So in the meantime, fans of the FCF style of sports have something to look forward to. The launch of the new Fan Control Hoops coming this summer. Dates for the FCH season are coming soon. So Team Aoki fans, like me as an owner of a Team Aoki, we're just going to have to wait till the fall. I was really looking forward to it, but I agree there is a lot going on this spring between the XFL, USFL, and then you have Canadian Football League. So it kind of makes sense to kind of push it back. The question is, doing it during the fall? I don't know about that. We'll just have to wait and find out. Not only does XFL News Hub have an app, but the XFL finally has officially launched their app this past week for iPhone and Android. It includes XFL Pick'em and weekly games. So they sent out the notification to the Huddle platform, and then they sent it out to other ones. Says the XFL is dedicated to innovating and bringing the fan experience into the future, a new way for you to experience your XFL team for the 2023 season. So they have their new app. With the XFL app, you'll be able to access these great features to expand your experience. Customize your experience by selecting your favorite team. Cool. Real-time scores, stats, scoring plays from around the league. Cool. Team stats, player stats and standings. Good. Rosters and schedules. Needed. Access, manage, and buy your tickets with Ticket Hub. Okay, cool. Shop for the latest gear of your favorite team with XFL Shop. Cool. This is the one that kind of jumped out at me. Official home of the XFL Pick'em, the weekly free-to-play gambling game. Well, I haven't seen anything that on the app just yet, but they apparently have some kind of game, gambling money, like what's going on with that. So that kind of really piqued my interest. Also, you can sign up for the Huddle, the fan insight community, which they haven't really done much with, where you can engage, discuss, and provide feedback. They have had some stuff there. So you can visit the Apple App Store or Google Play and download it today for a brand new fan experience. So make sure you download not only the XFL's iPhone app, but XFL News Hub's app as well. We are working on updates to that one as well. So the XFL is going to air some shows. We got some information on that after digging into Xfinity's program listing and ESPN Plus. We found 2 XFL shows airing on open weekend. ABC will air a 1-hour special on the XFL. The official title of the program is the 54th Man or something like that just came out. We just discovered that today, so it's a title. That's going to be on Thursday night, on ESPN2 at 5 p.m. Eastern, and then it will be on ABC at 2 p.m. Eastern. That will lead into the kickoff of the 2023 XFL season. The 3 p.m. game on ABC will feature a matchup between the Vegas Vipers and Arlington Renegades. On Sunday, ESPN Plus will air a 30-minute TV show called XFL Today. This TV show will be a weekly series. I believe that the hour-long series is also a weekly series as well, the 54th Man TV show. The 30-minute program will start at 2:30 and will lead into kickoff of day 2 of the XFL season, the 3 p.m. game on ABC featuring a matchup between the St. Louis Battlehawks and San Antonio Brahmas. Very cool there. There should be a big ramp up of advertising this week now that the Super Bowl is over, but we will find out more, I would assume, in the next couple of days about these new shows appearing on ABC and ESPN. The XFL announced a new Bolt 6 as official instant replay partner. I know you guys are very interested in that. The XFL announced Bolt 6, an innovative sports software developer, as its official instant replay partner. Bolt 6 industry-leading technology will capture all the game day angles and make them central available thanks to its new collaborative and infinitely scalable replay platform, making the XFL the first American Football League to utilize a fully cloud-based replay system. Bolt 6 will be used by departments across the league, including football operations, officiating, health and safety, and broadcasting, to leverage its real-time video capture to make key decisions on the sidelines and in the booth. Video feeds from all broadcasts and specialist cameras are encoded and sent into Bolt's cloud platform, which is then aggregated and disseminated to on-field officials, coaches on the sidelines, and XFL Command Center, virtually capturing 360 video for instant play review. Bolt 6 technology will enable collaboration across the league and allow the XFL to better support its athletes' training and development through easily accessible and ready available video playback. A bunch of quotes from that. Bolt's integral component of the XFL Command Center, allowing Dean Blandino, who was on our podcast, Vice President of Officiating and Rules Innovation, to be fully integrated into game day broadcasts and offer fans a glimpse into how key officiating decisions are made. All video streams from Disney, ESPN broadcasts will be directly and automatically uploaded to the cloud-based system. Additionally, Bolt 6 eliminates the need for in-market servers and expansive infrastructure, making the XFL's technology stack even more efficient. So more of these kind of rollouts will be coming in the weeks. I'm still waiting for DraftKings, please, and an API, but still, a lot of innovative new companies the XFL is partnering with. We'll see how it all comes together in just about a week. All right, we'll take a commercial break. We'll be right back with more of your social media stuff right after this. Stay tuned, my friends. Get ready for the biggest XFL season yet with RunTheSims.com, your ultimate toolkit for XFL DFS and prop betting. With DraftKings offering XFL contests with huge prize pools, you want to have the best tools and player projections at your fingertips. And Run the Sims delivers with their lineup optimizer, showdown simulator, and expert pick'em tools for prize picks and underdog. So here's the deal. Use code NEWSHUB for 10% off a monthly or weekly spring football subscription and get access to accurate projections to help you make informed decisions and make that money. That's runthesims.com. Use the promo code NEWSHUB for 10% off. So if you followed spring football and in the past, you know the information edge can be massive. So if you want to win big, subscribe to runthesims.com and use the promo code NEWSHUB today to save 10% off. All right, my friend. Yep, we're back. What is up? Hey, what did you guys think of that? What did you guys think of the roundtable? I think reaction in the chat rooms, you guys loved it. So that was awesome. Again, we appreciate Mike Mitchell, Anthony Miller, Evan Wilsmore, and Pat Ruffino. He had to hop off, but appreciate all of them being on the program to hang out and talk XFL. We're going to do that more. That was our first time we've ever done that. Got the Zoom call thing working, got everything working. So I appreciate you guys hanging out in the chat room and being part of it. Hey, make sure, what are you doing? If you're watching this program, smash the like button. We're only at 27 likes. We need to get the 60. We should definitely get that going there. All right, we'll get on to, again, we kind of went through all your questions, everybody in the chat. Appreciate you guys in the chat. As a reminder, we do, moving this over, hold on, stand by. We have, our league is ready to go. Fantasy Football XFL Week in Review Listeners League is ready to go. Here's one of the cool things that we worked on this past week is when you do pre-draft, you see Jordan Tamu, Abram Smith, Kyle Sloter, AJ McCarron. So people that do the pre-draft, basically the system will kind of compile all of the picks together and then every day redo the ADP, average draft position. And so it's really cool. So if you're a super nerd of, and you're especially looking for DFS, here's some data that you can use to do your pre-draft. So not only will this help with the pre-draft, which will help with the drafting, which helps the system pick the best players. And so we've had a ton of drafts. Bugs have not been too bad. They really haven't been too bad. Lots of fixes over the weekend, lots of work. But so we have our team. We will wait to talk trash on next week's show. But yes, the XFL Week in Review Listeners League is out and about. Also, I want to point out, as soon as they announce DFS, I will be putting it on social media that we'll do $5 bets and we will do DraftKings for the XFL. I mean, guys, we are Monday and it's still not, the USFL has a thing up there. The CFL has a thing up there. Where is the DraftKings XFL thing happening? Where is that? Also, a reminder to check out Alt Football on Reddit. That's where all of our articles goes, and we curate not only just from XFL News Hub, but all different kinds of places that you can find news pertaining to XFL, USFL, CFL, Fan Control Football, Indoor Football League, and ELF. Indoor Football League, by the way, is also heading into March training camp too. So that's really exciting. I'm super excited. I mean, this is on, guys. It's on. So remember, Thursday we're going to have a show. It'll come out just not live. Maybe we'll go live. I have to kind of play it by ear. And then we'll be live, but we will be live on Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern time to head into kickoff of the XFL season, taking your questions, last minute DFS picks, all sorts of stuff. So we will have that as well for you there. All right, let's go to the Facebooks. We've got Mike Mitchell's great article about pro football players reaping the benefits of both the XFL and USFL. A lot of great reaction there. Eric says, one way to get football fans to watch XFL and USFL games is that if the players could someday play in the NFL. Well, yeah, that's the whole thing. They will. These guys will be playing. Tunju says, I hope you guys do a head-to-head battle after the season, XFL versus USFL, and winner faces NFL. I know it wouldn't happen, but probably would be cool. I have thought about this. So we're in phase 2 of XFL News Hub World. We're in phase 2. And phase 2 is we've got the XFL, USFL, CFL, podcasts, fantasy football going through. I have a vision down the road to be able to play, but we need the data. Could you imagine doing a fantasy football simulation with XFL and USFL players together? I'm just saying. And there is a way to do it, but we need to make some money first. All right, kids? Ken says, is USFL still playing all games in one stadium? No, they're not. They'll be in 4 different locations. I think the USFL might have been helped themselves out maybe in announcing, like showing the team names rather than just kind of just generic highlights, but, just so that fans go like, oh, they're, what are the teams, or, you know what I mean? But hey, I can't complain. There was tons of traffic to our site. But check out Mike Mitchell's article. Question of the week, who's winning the XFL championship? John says Battlehawks versus Renegades. Renegades win by 12. Brandon says division alignment is terrible. Should have done East and West. Okay, he doesn't like it. He's not a fan of that thing. Okay, fine. Fine. Be that way. Debbie Downer. On the Instagrams, what do we have for some picks here? Teresa Misu, Sports Guru, said Vipers all day. If you heard the roundtable, the guys were definitely talking up the Vipers. I was a little surprised. Fred JMZ, 1776, says the San Antonio Brondas. Appleman 20, DC Defenders. B, Birmingham Stallion Nation, says the Vegas Vipers. That's cool. See, it's all good. Colin Watkins says the Roughnecks. Joseph Dar 11 says Battlehawks. No, that is who Vegas is picking. Vegas is picking the sports books of picking them. Scotty Bowser Call is the Battlehawks. The call is the law, so there is his picks there. Yeah, Vegas Vipers is the one that kind of surprised me a little bit. I wasn't sold on that one per se. Let's see here. Let's fix this. Oh, this was our tweet. There are 206 days until the 2023 NFL season begins. However, there are 5 days until the XFL 2023 season begins. Chris, with a bunch of numbers, says, at XFL Renegades, hope the Arlington Renegades bring DFW and football championship this 2023 season, XFL season, and the DFW area needs another football champion. And since the Cowboys have not made the Super Bowl in many years, it's time for the Renegades to do it for the DFW area. I'd agree with that. That would be big too. I mean, there's certain locations in the XFL that need to do well. Battlehawks, San Antonio, and Arlington having a good run would be good for the league as well. Let's see. The Brahmas tomorrow are announcing who their team captain and QB1 is going to be, which I think is very cool to do that at 9:45 a.m. I assume that's Central Time. And Moose _717 says Sinnett. Reed Sinnett is going to be the guy. Interesting there. I like how they do that. I hope other teams do that. We need depth charts, rosters. We got the rosters. You can check out all the rosters and the cuts on XFL News Hub for your favorite teams, or if you want to look at all of them, you could do that too. But you definitely have the, we need kind of depth charts got to come this week. Who's the starting quarterbacks? Lots of information coming down the pike. On to the YouTubes. The YouTubes. Always love the YouTubes. So this looks a little weird. Oh, there we go. SLHC Frank 1 says, let's go Battlehawks. Okay. Another one says Battlehawks. JBLB 6262. JW Universe says, getting my first round of XFL merch in the mail tomorrow. Excited. Let's get it, baby. I will order more later in the week. I'm liking, anybody order the new merch from anybody in the chat room order the new alternative logo there. And Yusuf Farlene 5096 says Guardians. So did anybody order any of that, the new merch that kind of came out? All right, finally, let's get to, I missed some of these questions for the round table. Maybe I can answer them myself. Because that was the first time we did it. All right. Let's go to, did I put it in I put it in the wrong spot. All right, let's go to our emails and then wrap this sucker up. Let's see here. There. Yeah, this is live, friends. This is live. Live uncut. Okay. Here we go. All right. I think we talked about this one last time. About the UFL commissioner was yeah, we talked about that last time. Okay. Let's see here. Did we talk about this? This was, I think we got these two. Yeah. Yeah. All right, I got these. I'm like, wait, what's going on? Okay. Don checking in says, call, my friends. I heard the announcement of the live panel, but unfortunately I have scheduled conflicts, so there's so many questions. I will listen to them on the download. I've screwed up, but I think we got these. with the release of Ryan Willis to explore his options elsewhere, who is the best QB option out there? Ta'amu? Well, yeah, we talked about the best QBs in the league. The panel went over that. Ta'amu's out there. We're talking about Kyle Sloter, Brett Huntley. So there's plenty of good guys out there. And Ryan Willis was kind of third on the depth chart. He did not play well. He wasn't even second on the depth chart. So, but he's picked up by the USFL. Is 0 a number? Just kidding. It's just a comment on kicker Marquette King of the Renegades, taking that as his number. Love that guy. Yeah. And one of the things that Anthony Miller talked about, he thinks that the best special teams is on the Renegades with King and Taylor Russolino, I believe, as the kicker. So I love Marquette King too. He's definitely going to be somebody I hope the league focuses on, because he's a character if you follow him on social media. Yeah, I do love me some Marquette King. He's kind of like the Pat McAfee of the XFL punters or something like that. But yeah, we should get him to do a show with us. That would be awesome. I got to try to get him on the show. I will try to do that. James checking in. He said he had 2 questions. Who will win the attendance record this year? I think that would be the Battlehawks. Will the XFL expand after a successful 2023 season? Jim, Battlehawk Nation, checking in. I would say that the attendance is clearly going to be St. Louis. They're just insane. They're going crazy. As long as the team is winning. But I don't even think, I think if the team was kind of meh, even if they were 500, they just can't be a repeat of the Pittsburgh Maulers where they were 1 in something. That would be bad. But I think if they got a good run, I think that place would sell out, and it probably will sell out. They're going to sell out one game. I mean, if they made the playoffs and the championship game was there, be awesome. Awesome. But that's the thing. Everybody got, I think the juice for the XFL 2023 season is still light. It's just kind of light because I think, people, the USFL, they kind of were, there was kind of like people that went to the USFL and there's football nerds. Then there was people still waiting for the XFL. Now that the XFL is back, St. Louis people, they don't care about the USFL. And they're excited about the XFL, but there's still that they only played 5 games. We all know what happened. We all know the history. But they're still they just played 5 games and, they're kind of not going to get their hopes up. I think year 1 for the XFL is going to be prove yourself year. They played a full season. Everything is cool. We're going into season 2. I think then people will open their hearts a little bit. And James says, Roundtable was effing great. Yes, it was. And we plan on doing more of that as well in the future. All right, my friends. Shout out to everybody in the chat room. Thank you so much for hanging out. Chris, Paladin Demo, Nobi Editor. Who do you have as the champions? My homer pick is DC Defenders, but I'm really, man, the guys got me change my tune when it comes to the Vipers. Television Savage 629 said, would you like Mike and others to see XFL teams for one game put the season, wear throwback 2020 uniforms at some point this season or seasons to come? Why not? Why not do that? It's another way to make money. But yeah, I think let's just try to get through the first season there, my friends. All right. I appreciate you guys. Oh, and shout out to our new sponsor. You saw the commercial. Oh my gosh. Where did I just put it somewhere. Oh my God, I didn't. Our new sponsor, we're working with them. We'll play it one more time. You know what I'm talking about. Get ready for the biggest XFL season yet with runthesims.com, your ultimate toolkit for XFL DFS and prop betting. With DraftKings offering XFL contests with huge prize pools, you want to have the best tools and player projections at your fingertips. That's right. Runthesims.com. Use the promo code NewsHub, save 10% off. Do it now. Get in, because this is how I use the fantasy footballers. And I had a great season considering my draft and my team was not that great. I was able to survive, and I really like the DFS stuff that they do as well. If you're going to play this stuff and you want to be serious about it, don't spend 50 hours. You got other things to do. Let those experts do the research for you, and then you can do things. So you Run the Sims, for example, you can use them. And I'm excited to use them for the NFL season as well. So 10% off. Use the promo code News Hub and get yourself 10% off. Very cool to be partnering with them as well. All right, my friends, that's it for this day's show. You want to be part of the show? Email podcast at XFL News Hub with your thoughts or MP3, 888-430-7692 again, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate that as always. We are going to have our next show. It's very simple. Our next show will be Thursday. Will come out. We're going to have DFS, the latest news going into the weekend, and then a special 1 p.m. Eastern on Saturday show to kind of wrap it all up, get it going for kicking off the XFL season. Super excited. We made it. I was freaking out about this Zoom deal, hoping that it was working, and I was having issues. God is good. That's all I have to say about that. God is good, because things were sketchy all day today, my friends, all day today. All right, my friends, that's it for me, folks. Again, as always, thank you for watching. God bless. Mahalo. And I will see you all, not live, but I will see you all. You will hear from me on Thursday. God bless. And I will see you all on Thursday. This is the week, friends. We are back. Unless the aliens come. All right. See you all later.